Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fearless Floyd Show. As always, I am your host, Fearless Floyd. Today is Friday, August 25th, 2023. And of course, you see behind me, we have the Darrell Link story, A Farmer's Nightmare on the High Noon Show. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Darrell will join us in just a second. Like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell. Leave a comment below if you want to reach me, the Fearless Floyd Show at yahoo.com. FearlessFloydShow.com is my website. Got all kind of neat stuff on there. If you want to reach me, hey, I'm on every social media platform you can shake a stick at. Go hit me up on Telegram. That's my main mover. That's where I like to play. So you can reach me there through a DM. And let me jump over here to the store real quick. So show you what we have to offer at the FearlessFloydShow.com store. And here's the firm mailing book. Got one of those going out today. Here's the ebook and softcover book. This is a 2-volume set. 269 pages for volume 1, 300 pages for volume 2. It also is a PDF ebook. The 2-volume soft cover books, you can get the combo here, the PDF ebook and the soft cover book for $359. This is the 501 class 98 EIN foreign trust class that we offered. It's still available. These are some instruments that I made. Here's an autograph book. I autograph all the ones I send out anyway. More forms that I created. Student discount. If you take any one of Ann's classes, you get a discount. More classes you've taken, the more discount you get off the ebook. Okay. I've got to change the cover on this for some reason, but the soft cover book is $259. Ebook is $249. Your book will go out the next day if I'm available. It'll go out media mail 2 to 8 days for delivery. These are 4 packages that I do offer. Package 1 is the ebook and the 101 class for $369, and then it scales up the 101 201, 101 201 401, 101 401, and the 101 2401, and the VCR classes in package 4. And then driver's license surrender on the public and private side. Don't forget to do that. Don't leave a back door. Here's the ebook for $249, consultations by Ann and myself. Here's the classes that we offer here. Every class for $599. I will even throw in the 501 class for free for you guys if you do that today. 401 class, which was on revocable or irrevocable trust, VCR, voucher, coupon, remittance. 301 was on foreclosures and mortgages. 201 on deeds. 101 was on the revocable living trust, fundamental birth certificates that I create. Deed polls, name change decrees, notary presentment, which I do because I am a Texas notary. I will have online capabilities probably within the next 48 hours. Here's the auto bond that I created that you can purchase. So there you go. That's what's in the store. That's what's available to you. Go hit us up. Go get you something. And stop share. And I'm going to admit our guest. And renaming. Are you there, Darrell?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Well, yeah. I've got us all introduced. We're ready to roll. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guest for his reappearance in part 2, the Darrell Link story, A Farmer's Nightmare. And with that, Darrell, thank you for being here, and continue on with your story for everybody. You might want to pick up a little bit where you left off yesterday or day before. That way it segues in well. And with that, I'll digress.
Thank you, Floyd. Well, welcome, everyone. What I talked about in part 1 was basically a little more of my background, where my heart is, and my desire to stand for truth. You know, as I was confronted with things that I wasn't aware of. And, you know, when I grew up, I grew up just on a common family farm. You know, we milked cows by hand and, had chickens and poultry and all this stuff. But anyway, through this here, it gave us a work ethic. But then as I grew up, I started milking cows, and I, bought some calves when I got out of high school. And then a couple years later, I started milking. And then this allowed me to be qualified for beginning farmers FHA loan. And so I went ahead and I signed it and purchased 80 acres that was close to me, and then started milking. And, because I was milking cows, we got a special classification in FHA that, we were more accepted. And we had our, if we were needing some extra funds, we qualified in that category because they were encouraging people to. So, but as I got into this here, and the FHA contract that I signed was really troubling after I read through it later on, where basically it talked about that any supplementary agreement by the borrower does hereby mortgage, assign, warrant unto the government the following properties situated in South Dakota, Charles Mix County. And then it had the land description, but then we went on, and the second page, there was a little spot where you could put all the description, and then it goes together with all rights, interests, easements, hereditaments, appurtenances, thereunto the rents, issues, and profits thereof, the revenues and income therefrom, all improvements of personal property now attached, later attached thereto, and reasonably necessary hereof. Just a lot of stuff, but not limited to ranges, refrigerators, clothes washers, clothes dryers, carpeting, financed in part or in whole, all water rights, stock pertaining to, and any lease, transfer, conveyance, condemnation, or any part or interest thereon, which shall herein be called the property, to have and to hold the property unto the government and its assigns forever in fee simple. The borrower for himself and his heirs, executors, administrators, successors, and assigned warrants the title to the property to the government against all lawful claims or demands whatsoever, except for liens, encumbrances, easements, reservations, and conveyances specified here and above in the covenants and agrees as follows. And I started, later on, we kind of was brought to my attention, and I thought, wow, what am I really buying? I transferred everything that's attached to the property is called the property, and I give the title to the government forever. And then there was another place on what follows in the terms and conditions were the thing that we need to have it insured, for the full amount. And then there was a waiver. The borrower acknowledges and agrees that if he defaults, a non-judicial foreclosure sale of the property may be conducted without a hearing of any kind, without notice beyond the publication of the notice of sale. The borrower hereby waives any right he may have to any such hearing and notice. And I thought, when I read this, I said, really, I'm waiving everything, my right to defend it, and I've transferred everything. So my question was, what was I buying? And so this became a little problem. So after filing the Chapter 12 bankruptcy action and this to stay the action brought by Production Credit Association, PCA, even though there was a mediation agreement in place with PCA, which PCA violated. So I was compelled to defend myself in the legislative state of court with the Chapter 7 trustee claiming to be the victim. With the help of a paralegal, the late Ray Ehrman from up by Freeman, South Dakota, and after the conversion of the Chapter 7 bankruptcy, I filed a case in federal court to address the FHA unconscionable mortgage contracts and regarding the promissory note demanding payments made to pay interest only for 30 years. And then they would start applying it to the principal on a 40-year note. Then after preparing for the lawsuit against FHA, I went to the United States District Court to get a summons and complaint filed and file stamped and prepare to perfect service of process on the parties named. I carried a bundle of lawsuit papers to be served into the court, up to the court clerk's desk, and I noted there were 7 clerks behind the counter, and they all looked up at me like, "He's here." And I thought, this looks kind of odd. And so after that, I asked the clerk to put a file stamp on the summons and complaint. And the next thing, there was a marshal standing right beside me on my right shoulder. And he said, "You're Darrell Link, and I got a warrant for your arrest." I told the marshal, I said, that I didn't identify myself, but I see him. If I see him, I'll tell him you're looking for him. So the marshal pulls up one of these pencil sketch pictures of my face, like in the old detective movies. And he said, "This is you." And then about 5 officers grabbed me from the back and threw me down on the floor and just like dog piled on top of me and handcuffed me and put me in a holding cell in the courthouse, all carpet burned up. This was the first arrest after they converted the bankruptcy case to an involuntary Chapter 7. I parked my car in a private parking lot across the street from the courthouse with Ray, my paralegal. He was waiting in the car for me to come back. So here I was arrested and sitting in a little cell up in the top of the courthouse, and the marshals ordered him to get out of the car, and they proceeded to search my car, and then they had it towed out of a private parking spot to a tow yard. Ray had to call his wife to come and have her come give him a ride back to his home in Freeman, South Dakota, and that was about 50 miles away. And the rest was based upon the sale of 7 loads of hay that I grew after the bankruptcy was filed, and that was not a part of the bankruptcy. This is where the bankruptcy court claimed all property attached to my name, including the said 7 loads of hay that were not part of the bankruptcy proceeding. After being booked into the jail in Lake Dundee, South Dakota, about a day or 2 later, I was released on a PR bond and then got a ride back to Sioux Falls, South Dakota to get my car out of the tow yard. After getting my papers back, I had to get a file stamp in the federal district court. And so I went up there this time and, I got them file stamped and we got them sent out and all this stuff. And we went ahead and got those served. And then, I was waiting for a response, and well, there was no response from the other side. And it was just like, there's a failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. And then the court just roughshod over it. And then after that, I was in the district court. The district court dismissed the case. And when I was transferred to prison in Waseca, Minnesota, I needed to appeal the court action or the court decision. And at that time, they put Ray in jail because he didn't have a driver license. And I was hoping that he could help prepare the response when I was, needing to finish this and prepare for appeal on my papers. And I was disappointed, after I got this document prepared, I was hoping to have Ray help me. But when I got over, I had a guy there in the prison who was a teacher, and he was a good typer, and he was very good at grammar and stuff. And so he helped type this out for me, and we prepared an appeal. But when I was preparing for the appeal, there was this guard. He kept walking by my door because I was really sitting in the, on top of my bunk and just minding my own business and trying to get this all handwritten out so I would be able to respond. But anyway, so I was just about finished with the document, and it disappeared out of my locker. Everything that I had written and I was not very happy. And I went up to the unit manager and I, demanded to know where it went and who took it. I said, it's here somewhere. I said, it was prepared. And I start getting ready to, put a administrative action in place. And the next thing, it showed back up in my locker like a day or two later. But I'm sure what it was the guards going, and when I wasn't in the room, and they were fishing through my papers, and they said, well, here, you better look at this here, because they are nothing more than out there to protect the banks and basically the agenda of this here legal system. And what we thought was there for the benefit on our behalf, is really working on the other side to basically abridge our rights rather than protect them. But, it seemed like this was also a plot that they knew I had to respond to this appeal, and they didn't want to address the issues. And the next thing, they threw Ray in jail for like 45 days before he could get out. And this is the time frame that I had to get this appeal prepared and finished. But, not having the experience, and this is one of the things that I've seen where they love to take advantage of those that aren't really fluent or able to defend themselves in a legal setting. And so they take advantage of the aspect of holding you as a legal fiction person and hold you in a different capacity. And then when you come into the court, it's like, I can't even hear you because you're claiming to be a man and they're looking at you as a piece of commerce in a trade conflict. Since the bankruptcy court converted the Chapter 12 to an involuntary Chapter 7, I was concerned since the court issued an order to gather and sale cattle. And we made an issue of that, and I responded to it in the record, to gather and sale, not to sell, but to sale them. What does that mean? Just set a price on them? And objected to it and stuff. And then they start coming after, and then I figured they would probably start coming after the rest of my property. So I prepared a demand for a temporary injunction to stop the bankruptcy court from taking any property until the issue was heard and addressed in the federal district court to void the unlawful conversion of the Chapter 12 to the reinstated Chapter 12 to an involuntary Chapter 7. So Ray and I went up to Sioux Falls, South Dakota to get this temporary injunction served upon the district court judge, the Chapter 7 trustee, the bankruptcy court clerk, and all those. And I went up to the marshal's office. This is on the upper floor of the courthouse, in the federal courthouse, and I asked them to serve this injunction. They refused to serve it upon the named parties because the named parties were right there in the building just down the hall. But they refused. I was willing to pay the service and everything, and they refused to even perfect service. And so, then after that, and taking it up there to address so we stopped to visit another paralegal, the late John Heller, and he had a Patriot radio broadcast and was well acquainted with the sheriffs in Sioux Falls, and he knew them well and stuff. And he sent me to talk to one of the deputies, and have him serve the papers. And so the deputy said he, could get maybe 2 or maybe 3 of the parties served that evening and would serve the rest in the morning. And so he took off, and I, paid him for the service, and he did get a couple of them served that night. And the next morning, it was mid-December, and the temperature was about 0, and I was sitting in my living room floor, or by the living room table, and I was preparing Christmas cards and letters, when I counted 17 cars coming in the driveway with lights flashing. They surrounded my house, and they blocked the driveway and kind of one car across from each other, and they stood outside their cars with AR-15s pointed toward the house. At the criminal trial, I claimed I had the marshal up on the stand, and I claimed that they come out there and they had machine guns, and they're pointing at me in the house. And he said no. He said they weren't machine guns. He said they were AR-15s. So anyway, who knows, fully automatic or whatever, but that was quite a scene. And so I called my brother and some neighbors and friends to come over to be witnesses, just in case some extreme event would happen, because it didn't look very safe. And I didn't trust the atmosphere that was presented. I had one friend that came out with his movie camera, and he began videoing the event. And I still have all this evidence. I would not go to the door until enough witnesses arrived. And then I went to the front door where there were two marshals standing with shooting glasses on and their hands on their pistols. I opened the door and I asked the marshal, I said, what are you here for? And he said that they had an order from the bankruptcy court and they were there to take the cattle. And I told the marshal that I had discharged the debt with PCA. I was dismissed out of bankruptcy, where Petter Eckert ordered, the judge Petter Eckert ordered that there was specifically no existence of fraud on my part and dismissed the case. And so I was out of bankruptcy, and all the property was returned back to me. So I was no longer in that bankruptcy court proceeding, involved in it. And the marshal then told me that they were there and were going to take all the cattle. So I told him that, well, you got the guns, and that I would go get some clothes on and I'll come outside. When I went outside, I had a tape recorder around in my pocket, and I had a camera around my neck and a clipboard in my hand, getting names and badge numbers and pictures of everyone there. When I approached the agents that were present, they would cover their badges and they would put their hands over their faces, and when I took their pictures. So I asked them why they were not proud of what they were doing and not willing to provide their identity. And there were two parties that had ski masks on, and they didn't want their picture taken, which I was able to get their pictures later after they were chasing cattle and they got hot and removed their masks. And I came around the corner and, I told them smile. I said, and I took their picture. And then later I identified them, and I included them in a Title 1983 Title 42 action, which didn't yield any results. But this was for taking property without a warrant and denial of due process of law. And the truckers that proceeded to, load the 5 potbelly semi-trailers full of bred Holstein heifers and hauled them to Sioux Center, Iowa, to a dairy auction. And I prepared a notice of theft and demand that they not sell the cattle, which were stolen from me, and mailed it overnight mail to the sale barn. And I called the sheriff's office over there. I believe it was Orange County, but it was Orange City, Iowa, I believe, where it was. And I called the sheriff's office in Iowa there and told them that there were 5 semi-loads of stolen cattle coming their way, and gave them the truck identification name and numbers. And this caused a big stir, but the authorities didn't do anything to stop the theft. And a few days later, I received the overnight certified mail returned unopened. Then I called my insurance company and filed a claim for stolen cattle. This claim was denied, and then charges were brought against me for filing a false insurance claim. So, even though I had a right, but they were doing everything they could to protect the bankruptcy court from the fraud that they participated in. But Ray helped me prepare this Title 42, and one night we were typing it out, and it was about midnight, and Ray actually fell asleep while typing while he was typing, and his head just dropped down. When he woke back up, he continued typing until we were finished, like nothing even happened. He just continued on like his thought never left him. But Ray was a true patriot, and he stood for the truth and honesty, and he was absolutely a blessing to work with. His commitment and dedication to help others in need was really over the top. And I can't say enough good about Ray, as he lived to serve as a servant of the Most High Creator, to help those who are being oppressed by this corporate political system. And this is what really caused him to be targeted. And we'll get into this a little bit later again, when he was trying to address the issue with travel, and they kept throwing him in jail. He beat him on, that they said he didn't have a driver license. Well, he beat him on that because he didn't need one. And then they charged him with driving with a suspended license, and the whole thing, I don't know, it was revoked. But anyway, they were fighting him on every angle. But this is the way the enemy works. He continues to try to bog you down with a bunch of nonsense while they're behind the scenes, eroding away at the country. And you can see this happening daily in this country. And like I mentioned in part one, that this is the spiritual battle that we are up against, and it is being financed by the false weights and measures that we are circulating as money today. But anyway, I had the sheriff's office serve this Title 42 on the 2 highway patrol who participated in the cattle theft, and I paid the sheriff's office with a check, which they held for probably at least maybe a couple of weeks. And then the bankruptcy court, or the bankruptcy trustees, shut down and confiscated my checking accounts. Then the sheriff's office run the check through. The bank only to have the bank bounce the check. And then they were attempting to charge me with writing a bad check. And fortunately, I was able to cover the check with cash I had on hand, and I just sent them a money order, so I had proof of that the obligation was discharged. It was really a dirty trick to be played by the officer elected by the people, as that isn't the type of lawful expectation from the duties of a elected official like a sheriff. And I always said that the worst enemy is one that wears a uniform and a badge, or an attorney who has the confidence of the people, but is working to cover up or even support and defend the crime. And this is where in scripture it says, by their fruits ye shall know them, and we are to be fruit inspectors. But we have to recognize it by knowing the truth, and we can see right through their lies and deception. But I would imagine that for the most part, and for some benefit, they have some benefit to work against the will of the people who put them in office, all in violation of their oath. It appears that the fruit from their actions of these officers, that it is very likely that they belong to a secret society working behind the scenes, like the Masonic lodges, and that type of secrecy that is uniform, not only in this country, but around the world, as this is a world battle. But I purchased it was a 1723 Anderson Constitution. And this was the first constitution for the Masonic Lodge. And in there, in the first few pages, it talks about where the Masonic Lodge claims their authority. And they claim it from the line of Cain. And we know in Scripture it has two lineages in the first part in Genesis, where the line of Adam was basically those that were under God's grace and protection. And then you have the line of Cain, who was cast out of the garden. And so a deep study in Genesis 3:15 will help you to find the real meaning of what happened in the garden in Genesis 3:15, where this Adam race was perverted. So this has been a kind of a learning curve to realize that these here secret societies are helping to establish this new world order of world control, top down, and bribery and blackmail ring a bell of the possible circumstances they're operating under, where they get them blackmailed and then they will do whatever to keep that from being revealed. And it is a real strong, and Kay Griggs talks about this very in depth, where her husband was a heavy drinker and he would reveal all this stuff when he come home. And she wrote it down and she got a copy of his diary and she shared it publicly on a talk show. And it was like 7 hours, but man, I tell you what, it was full of evidence and facts. But I remember finding an article by the Secretary of Agriculture written in about 1970, which stated, but remember in 1970, I think it was in 71, where they took all the silver out of the currency, and then we went to total fiat. So this, in this article, the Secretary of Agriculture, it talked about him hiring 10 young executives, and their duties were to inflate and deflate agriculture prices to eliminate the small producers. This was an effort to control the food production by eliminating the small farms, which was accelerated in a major way since 1933 under the Trading with the Enemy Act, as amended March 9, 1933, under the Roosevelt administration, when America was taken off the gold standard and replaced with the gold, replaced the gold with securitized birth certificated securities. And this entity that they've created on this birth certificate is basically identified as an enfranchised corporate person and has been declared the enemy of the United States. And the only way it can buy, sell, or trade or do business if it has a license or a permit. It gets permission from the legal fiction by a presumed contract at birth. And then as we continue to get driver license, permits, Social Security, all these here little nexus attachments is what they presume as a contract without any disclosure, mine full disclosure. So it is written in it is all basically written in the books, in their codes and statutes, but it's just that we are not aware of it. And that's why the Bible makes it very clear that ye shall know the truth, and it is the truth that will set us free. And I share this to bring awareness of the truth and how you get rejected when you present it. And a lot of resistance, Satan don't attack you because you're weak. He attacks you if you're strong and say, no more, I object. But remember, we have power to tread over scorpions and all these powers that Satan has no power over. And the authority that we have in Christ is beyond all this demonic force, because it all goes back to the Creator, and he can use that to wake his people up. And I believe that's what's going on today, is that the body of Christ has been complacent and has went to sleep and just allowing the enemy to invade. And that's why it says in Ezekiel chapter 33 that we are to be watchmen, and that if we see an enemy coming upon the land and we do not warn our brother and he dies in his sin, then the blood will be on our shoulder. But if we warn him and he continues to not heed to the warning, the blood will be on his shoulder. So we've all got a calling to warn others and to bring awareness to the deception. And that is why I'm sharing the things that I had experienced in my little ordeal, and hopefully that will help others to become aware of what they can expect in this here corporate system that they called a court of justice, but is really nothing but an administrative proceeding by a presumed contract that you are an enfranchised citizen, because a corporation cannot deal with a living sentient man or woman. He can only deal with other legal fictions because he don't have the capacity, because that legal person is basically civilly dead. It has no rights. It only has privileges from the one that is operating it. So that's quite a thing to recognize, that we are not being recognized as living moral people on the land. We're looked at as if we are chattel and corporate property by some presumed contract. And this is what we have to address, and Lord willing, we'll get it corrected. And I know that the God over this creation, will basically allow us to prevail as we become the salt and the light, and we express that our thoughts become our actions, not just silence. Then in about 1971, Nixon removed us from the backing of the United States dollar, and at that time we were totally using fiat money, which were debt obligations of the United States. We use notes, drafts, certificate of deposits, money orders as negotiable instrument to discharge debt, since we have no lawful money to pay debt, as mandated by the Constitution of the United States in Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, where it states that no state shall make anything but gold or silver coin a tender for payment of debts. We have no means to actually pay any debt. The only thing is that we can discharge it. And what we are using is basically fiat money, like monopoly money. And remember that the monopoly game was created in 1934. This is right after they took us off the gold standard, and now they were training us through this here messaging, through games and entertainment, that we are just using monopoly money. And the one who has the most money wins the game. It's materialism. It's this here deception, this entrapment that gets us caught up. And then the next thing is where we found ourselves in a real jam. But we wonder where all this money comes from. And what we use is debt credit backed by the people. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen that, but I think it talked about the difference in the description between $1 million, $1 billion, and $1 trillion. $1 million, I believe, if you take the dollars and convert it into seconds, $1 million would be, I believe it was 11 days. And $1 billion would be, the seconds in years would be 31 and a half years. And $1 trillion in seconds would amount to 31,500 or 650 years. So for you to count to 1 trillion, if you counted one number per second, it would take you 31 and a half years to count to 1 trillion. And there's no one in recorded history that has ever lived that long. So this is the unfathomable amount of debt credit that is circulating in the world. And as we continue to, still sell corn for $5 a bushel, and the dollar has devaluated to less than 3 cents. And we continue to have to work 2 or 3 jobs, and we wonder why we can't make ends meet. it's because of the false weights and measures that we have been accustomed or we have accepted by silence and consent. But it is the squeaky wheel that gets the grease, and the whole thing is that the people need to start making noise and start waking up those that are in the slumber and sleeping. But I am saddened by the destruction caused, by the use of the interest-bearing debt we circulate as money today. The practice of unjust weights and measures is defined in the Bible and considered an abomination unto the Lord. And in Proverbs 11, verses 1, it says, false balance is an abomination unto the Lord, but a just weight is a delight. And in Proverbs 20, verse 23, it says, divers weights are an abomination unto the Lord, and false balance is not good. And in Micah chapter 6, verses 11 and 12, it says, I shall not count them pure, or I shall count them pure with the wicked balance, and with the bag of deceitful weights. For rich men thereof are full of violence, and the inhabitants thereof have spoken lies, and their tongue is deceitful in their mouth. And I think we're starting to see the very thoughts of the heart of those that have accumulated all this debt credit and have gotten the blessings from the secret societies, that they can go with their billions and trillions and burn out a city like Maui, and then turn around and go and say, well, we'll offer you some of these tokens, these Federal Reserve tokens, and we'll rebuild this city into a 15-minute city, and we'll allow you to live in it as a slave, as our property. But you have to get this shot, you have to get this here little tattoo on you, you have to get chipped or whatever, you have to get your retina scan. You have to do all these things in order to comply, to qualify to be in there. So you sit here and starve until you finally say, I give up. But this is the kind of pressure that is being placed upon the people. It is wrong, but I again say that united we stand, divided we fall. And we must unite against this here tyranny that, it is the truth that'll set us free, but we have to get the truth out and speak it and expose the lies and deception that has been perpetrated upon the people. I always wondered, like where Congress would pass a bill in D.C. over something, and they would establish some statute or regulation. And the next thing, it was like overnight. It was in all the cities across the country. How does that happen? There is a network of controlling elements, and it is in high places where in Ephesians 6:12, it says we wrestle not against flesh or blood, but against principalities and powers and spiritual wickedness and rulers of darkness and spiritual wickedness in high places. And this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the forces of darkness that are very prevalent in our society, and we're recognizing fruits that we would not consider fruits of the Spirit of Christ, of love, because the fulfillment of the law is to love thy neighbor as thyself and God above all things, but it can be summed up in one word, is to love, and which is the opposite of hate. And this is the condition that they want people in, that we become so caught up in our material things that we'll hate our neighbor because he got more than I did, or that, he didn't take the vaccine and I did, so I hate him. But this is the kind of dissension and rat holing this demonic force, and as low as they will go to carry out what their lustful desires to control the world and be God themselves. But there's a document, it's called Here Are Truthful Facts. Most people don't know but should. But I'm going to just read a few clips, but you can look it up on the internet. It's just a little 2-page document. And the law, and there was another one. It's called the laws most people don't know but should. But this one here it's called the truthful facts most people don't know but should. But anyway, the FCC, the CIA, the FBI, NASA, and all the other alphabet gangs were never part of the United States government, even though the United States government held stock in those agencies. Remember, the United States is a corporation, and that is in Title 28, 3002, at Chapter 15. I believe it's maybe right there somewhere. So, but anyway, it is told to us. But anyway, this is backed up in a couple of court cases they quote here, and one is U.S. versus Strang at 254, and then U.S. 491, and then Lewis versus U.S. Federal page 680 F second and 1239. But anyway, this is all stuff that you can verify to confirm that it is the way it is. And if there's anything that I have maybe misspoken on this call, I speak what I know that is truth from the heart. But if I have spoken in any manner what would have been either mistaken or misconceived, please correct me with facts. But we are slaves, and we own absolutely nothing, not even that we think our children, that we even think our children are ours. And this is in a few court cases. It's Tillman versus Roberts at 108 South 62. And then Senate Document 438 in the 73rd Congress in the first session. And it is not the duty of the police to protect you. Their job is to protect the corporation and arrest the code breakers. And they've got 3 cases on this one. This is SAP, SAPP versus Tallahassee at 348 South 2nd, 363. And Lynch versus North Carolina Department of Justice, 376 Southeast 2nd at 247. And another one is everything in the United States is up for sale. Bridges, roads, water, schools, hospital, prisons, airports, etc., etc. Did anybody take time to check out who bought Camp Klamath Lake? Check out Executive Order 12,803, 12803. And, you'll see how they are actually selling our country out from underneath us. But we are considered human capital. Look at Executive Order 13037. The word cabal makes money off of the use of your signatures on mortgages, cars, loans, credit cards, or your social security number, etc. And the United Nations, the UN, has financed the operations of the United States government, the corporation of the all capital letters, the United States of America, for over 50 years, really since 1945, right after World War II. And the U.S. Department of the Treasury, in part of the UN, as we see above in this other information, now owns every man, woman, and child in America. And they really own our birth certificated security. They really have no authority over the living man, because our authority comes from our Creator, and we all have equal rights. We were all born equal. And this is what has to be recognized, and the authority has to go back to a trial by jury, not a jury trial where the judge controls the verdict. He instructs them that these here corporate policy statutes are law, and they're not. So the UN also holds and claims all the land in America in fee simple. The good news is that we don't have to fulfill the fictitious obligations. You can discharge fictitious obligations with other fictitious obligations. And this is what was done with the Monopoly game that they've trained us with for nearly 90 years. But anyway, they have trained us to accept whatever tokens they give us with numbers on them as if it is money. It is a gradual dumbing down, and we gradually continue to allow this beast to continue to grasp a stronger and stronger authority over us. But I share my story so that people can recognize the level of deception by the lawless that are allowed to be in places of authority. And so I want to give out maybe a couple web links where you can go and see what we've been working on to help counter these forces in the courts, and how you can also defend yourself against this deception. And you can go to USA Organic Republic. And Republic is spelled RUPUBLICK.com. And the reason it's spelled with the CK is because in the 1755 Johnson's Dictionary, this was the way it was spelled before all this political action was really established. And that was the first dictionary used during that era. So this is why we have used that. And another site is livingsovereign.org, livingsovereign.org. And we invite you to maybe help join in this here effort to restore this country back as being a republic, which is guaranteed under the contract that all these people that have taken an oath of office have given, that they would support and defend the Constitution. And we have to hold these public officials accountable that they operate within the authority that they have been granted. And in Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2 and 3, it basically says there shall be no ex post facto laws, and there shall be no bills of attainder. And so what is a bill of attainder? Is basically where they're charging you with a crime, they're throwing you in jail, they're taking property, they're authorizing it when they don't have authority to do it, and without a trial by jury. And before, this is in the Northwest Ordinance at Section 14, Articles 1 through 6 lays it out, that a habeas corpus shall never be suspended, and that a trial by jury is preserved. And upon demand of a trial by jury, it must be granted. But see, in this legal fiction system, they can't even deal with a living man or woman. They can only deal with other legal fictions. And so they bring us in this all capital letter status, and then they look at us as if we are an enfranchised corporate entity. And then they have given us voter privileges, and they have taken away our elector status. We have been given a selection of people to vote for, and a lot of times we have the choice of the lesser of two evils. And so this is a real confrontation that has to be resolved soon, because if the people don't stand up, and if we don't unite as one body for the purpose of truth, we're going to get run over. And if we stick our head in the sand and think that somebody else is going to do it, just imagine this with a big old ostrich sitting out there in the middle of the road with his head in the sand, and a big old dump truck that he never seen coming comes and just rolls over him. But this is what's going to happen to a lot of people when the truth hits them in the face, because we're not going to be prepared, because it is the truth that'll set us free. But once we know who we are and are able to defend our rights. If we don't defend our rights, we don't have any. If we don't know our rights, we don't have any. So it is the truth again that sets us free, and that's why I am sharing what I am to, maybe help bring awareness of the depth of depravity that has taken over this justice system. But on the Tuesday and Thursday night calls, we do a Republic call on Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and then again on Thursday we do a natural health and healing class on Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. And that phone number is 425-436-6280 with the access code of 695-623#. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that. And if you would like to get the notices, you can send Phyllis an email. You can get the replay on this one when you replay, and then there's a replay number also. And that number is, 605-313-5112 with the same access code of 695-623#. So I'd encourage you to continue to seek the truth and to be that salt and light that God had called each of us to be. So with that, I thank you for your time and your consideration in being part of the solution. As I was told that if I wasn't part of the solution, then I am part of the problem. So, I took that very seriously, and I did not want to be in support of the very things that I hated to do. And I think that's talked about in Romans chapter 7, that when I do the things that I hate, I do the very things that I want. And when I do the things I want, I do the very things that I hate. I mean, it's kind of an opposite. I don't know if that all come out right, but this is where, we seem to want to always take the easy path of least resistance. And, we get confronted with things, and sometimes it's easier just to turn our back. We see our neighbor getting beat up, and, do we go over there and help them, or do we go over there and see if we can get a bargain from the things that are plundered from them? Just like that chapter 7 trustee, he went ahead and he claimed to be the victim. The victim of what? But when I got dismissed out, they didn't know what to do, because now we had to deal with the issue of what we use for tender for payment. What makes my note less worthy than the one I originally signed? I signed them both. So what makes one more valuable than the other? They're both promises to pay. And this is what we have to realize, that we can discharge these fictitious so-called debts that they claim that we owe. We can tender for payment the same type of credit. And this is where when I got into this battle and started understanding it, this is one of the first things I recognized, that the Federal Reserve was actually a privately owned corporation. And there was a half dozen families, or a half dozen people that hung around over Christmas vacation and actually brought in the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. And then the first thing that was done was they brought in the fraction reserve, where they can lend out 9 times more than they actually had on deposit. And this worked for the beginning, but when the people had these gold demand certificates in their possession, and they kind of squeezed the stock market and brought in all this new money, and then they doubled the reserves, or the margin that you had to have for the note. It forced a lot of people out of the market, and they lost their farms. They lost everything they had. And as you remember what I shared with you earlier of when I invested in the commodities, they nearly doubled or so the margin. And when I didn't have the funds in my line of credit, then they come and pressured me, and I was so close. I just needed a little bit just to boost me over, because I knew they were going to double bottom in, either May or June, and then it went to June and July. But, we have to realize what we're up against. And what I found is the devil will always take you twice as far as you thought you would ever go. But this creates a real commitment, and this here picture of the footprints becomes real in your life, where there was two sets of footprints, and then when the trials and tribulation comes, there was only one set of footprints, and that's when Christ was carrying you through. So I guess my prayer is that that's where you would put your faith and your trust and continue to seek the truth and be the salt and the light that God called you to be. And, in his time, this nation will be restored to being recognized under his authority. So with that, you have a blessed weekend, and may the days ahead be prosperous. And we wish you all peace in your gate, like it told us in Ezekiel 8, verse 16. Speak truth to thy neighbor and execute the judgment of truth, and peace in your gates. So with that, Floyd, I will stop rattling and we call it a day. So we will continue on with this in part 3, and I'll get into more of a deal of when they took my the ordeal when they sold my land, when they come out and confiscated all my property. They took the iron out of the trees. They continued to take everything away that it would give me a means to survive. And then after they threw me into prison, they burnt my house, they burnt the shop, they burnt the barns, they bulldozed everything in a hole, and kind of transferred it over to another party that made it unlivable. And I'm trying to correct that, but in this system, it's a very hard situation to get this system to recognize the depth of the corruption and to once again restore this country back to a lawful state. So anyway, we'll look forward to seeing you on part 3, and I will share a little more of my experiences, how they continue to proceed until they finally, destroyed my life, destroyed me through propaganda. They put articles in the paper. They actually set up a bankruptcy task force and made that look like, man, they were really doing something. I mean, it sounds like they were really important, so they were allotted a bunch of money to set up this bankruptcy task force for these people that thought they weren't in bankruptcy. But this is the kind of deception that, they sell the people these things that if you don't know what really happened, you could get caught up in believing that the lie is the truth. But if you know the truth, you can see through the smoke and mirrors. So, we continue to recognize their fruits. And I pray as more people start coming awake that this can be corrected and it's opened up and revealed, where, the risk of the plunder becomes greater than the reward. And this is the condition that we need to get back to, where the consequence for the corruption cannot be more than the reward of the plunder. That when they get caught, the penalty must be severe enough to deter others from going down that same route. So we'll leave it at that. So, Floyd, I want to thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share this story. And I guess my prayer is that it'll help others to recognize just how cunning the spirit is, and where the Bible says that their words are smooth as butter, but their heart is far from me. And this was talking about lawyers. And in Luke 11:52, it says, "Woe unto you, lawyers, who have you have hidden the key of knowledge, and you yourself have not entered in, and to those that have, you hinder." But we have the source of who is enforcing and implementing this one worldism and this total control aspect of wanting to be God themselves and to control the whole world as if they are in control and in charge of everybody else's destiny because they have so much wisdom. And, you know, the message that was sent to us, you know, through the movies and politics is that the real experts come out of DC and Hollywood. And we see how flawed that has become and how this has basically been one of the weapons that they have used, where they use entertainment to glorify evil and to desensitize the spirit of man that, well, I've seen that before. I mean, that's nothing new. I know what happens. I mean, and the blood, guts, and all this stuff becomes a reality of what is truly going on within their heart. And out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And we know our words becomes our actions. Our thoughts become our words become our actions become our character, and our character becomes our destiny. So be careful where you go in this destiny of life, because we have two choices. We can either choose life or we can choose death. We can choose to support the truth or we can choose to support the lie. And that's why the Bible clearly told us to study to show thine own self approved, to not be ashamed, and to rightly divide the word of truth. So I think these are very subtle warnings to each of us that this is what we need to follow, and which is the good way. So with that, I don't want to continue on. So Floyd, if you want to take it from here, I want to thank you for this opportunity to share on your channel, and I pray that this message will, you know, help bring awareness to the way the system truly works and the forces that control it. So, blessings.
All right. And I am back. Sorry about that. I was in the middle of a phone call.
Okay, Floyd, can you hear me?
I can. Sorry about that. I was in the middle of a phone call.
Okay. Well, I didn't know, but I kind of finished. I didn't want to drag this out too long.
Okay.
But I kind of took some breaks in there. I was gonna quit there, and then you didn't come back, so I continued rambling on. But
what do you want to do? You want to keep going?
No, I'm good. I just wanted to kind of share what was on my heart and the things that I experienced, so that people that might be going into this here phase would recognize the operations of how the courts really work. And you know, it's an entrapment deal, but know who you are, and we need to be able to give notice and know who we are. And then if you go to those websites that I shared, it would be very helpful to help you to maybe have an approach.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So you good for part 3, part 4? What's that looking like?
Yeah, no, I can, the next thing in part 3, what I'll do is I'll I'll go into a little bit more after they threw me in and stuff. Well, before that, I'm going to back up a little bit again. And then the next phase is when they come out to take all my property and round up all the equipment, and then they hauled it to a sale, like out of my area,
Right.
and then sold it there to people that really didn't know what was going on.
Wow.
And this is, and then they sold the property. They threw me in jail, and then they went ahead and had a land auction. And well, a friend of mine got me out, and we went to the sale. And I went up there and I got in the front and I told them that this property all has liens around them on it, and it was being taken by unlawful bankruptcy, and I wasn't in bankruptcy. I started explaining this stuff, and the next thing I had a couple of deputies grab me and haul me off and told me to sit down in the back here and shut up, or we'll remove you from here. And so, but anyway, this is the kind of the bully practices that you may experience when you stand against lawlessness. But you know what truth is in lawlessness? Nothing. I mean, they just do what they're told. And I feel sorry for some of the people that are in law enforcement as they're caught up, but they may be good people, but just caught up in a bad system, trying to do what's right, but they're getting orders to do something that is wrong. And they're just being used as puppets. And, you know, we have to stand on our own 2 feet and be willing to stand against what we know is wrong. And so I guess that's the purpose of me helping bring light to some of the actions and how they treat, you know, the people on the land. Right. And the greed and the selfishness that controls their deal. And what they do is it's really called it's really a virus, and they call it the Ching Ching virus. And it affects the greed glands, and it controls their every action. So be careful for that Ching Ching virus, because it's dangerous. And It leads to envy and selfishness and all these other things that are described in Galatians chapter 5. So it's the fruits of the world, the fruits of the flesh. It's all about serving self. Me, my, and I. I'm judge, jury, and executioner. So that's probably enough rattling.
Okay. Right. Okay. Well, all right. Well, I appreciate you being here today. Do you want to shoot another one right after this? You want to wait till tomorrow?
I need to work on it. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work out for you when you're in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
If you can do it from there or not, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely shooting from there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I will. Let me kind of get together. I got to kind of get a PowerPoint so I don't double back and forth and all this kind of stuff. And to kind of, it's been 30 years, so you know, to try to get this in a chronological order. I don't know how you felt about what was shared today. You probably didn't listen to it, but
I did. I listened to the majority of it. Like the last 20 minutes, I probably had to turn it down a little bit. And then I started reading somebody a letter. Remember I told you I had to prepare a rebuttal for somebody?
Okay, yep.
Yeah, because of the technical legal verbiage that's, you know, way beyond most people's comprehension. They don't understand the context of the rebuttal. So I have to go back and explain to them, break it down.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing.
Yeah, the importance of words and how they're constructed.
Exactly.
You know, I look at 1 John 1:1, you know, where it says, in the beginning of the word was the word was with God, and the word was God. Okay, the word was truth. And that's when he confronted Pilate there in John, you know, and Pilate goes, what is truth? Well, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what truth is, okay? This is a 4-page letter that they sent us. And of course, you know, I highlighted it, broke it down, and, you know, did what I do. But one word in this 4-page document completely eviscerated everything in it. And that was the attorney wrote this. Accordingly, after taking possession of the property on November 30th, 2022, our client was forced to enter into an agreement with Olshan Foundation Solutions to repair the foundation and pilings. They were forced into a contract. How do you do that? How do you get forced into a contract? We all know if you're forced into something, contract, that's a void contract.
It's void. It's void.
Thank you, attorney. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
One
You
word.
know, coerced would be another thing. It would be better spoken, but that would be more revealing of what they really did.
Right. And then
You know,
they pay 2.5 times the estimate that they had. So anyway, that's a whole nother story. But that's what I'm telling you. You know, when you read a document, you have to break down the words, and you're looking for those key words where, oh, hey, guess what? She left me a back door. So the back door is open, and guess what I'm going to go do? Take care of her back door.
Stick a size 15 in there.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right, Darrell, I'm going to get moving on. I've got to be at the GRB here in 2 hours. So thank you for being here.
Okay.
And we'll get together either tomorrow or the next day and move on.
Okay. Well, let me kind of gather my thoughts and try to lay it out a little bit, and I will continue presenting that. But
Okay.
all this here amount of money that they spent on jailing, hauling you around, and all this here, I'll guarantee you, I don't know how many more times. I mean, the value of what my issue was. See, one thing about it, they sent out after they converted to a Chapter 7, and I didn't bring it in this time, but I'll bring it in next time. I forgot. But anyway, they sent out an analyst to analyze all my assets and liabilities.
Right.
And he sat there in the middle of my yard, and he just shook his head. He said, I've done this for 25 or 30 years. It was a long time. And anyway, he said, I have never seen a case like this. He said, you don't even qualify to be in bankruptcy, let alone in Chapter 7. And, you know, but then they had to create this here IRS claim. And so what they did is they went back on my income taxes that I filed ignorantly. And they said that they disallowed all my deductions. You know, if you spent $200,000 for cattle and then you sold them for 400, they called it 400,000 profit. And then they assessed this huge tax lien. I don't know what it was, 280,000 or something like that. And then they used that as another thing after they sold everything at fire sale prices and had this money left over. So they left a little portion for FHA, a little portion for the bank, and a little portion for PCA unpaid. And they give IRS priority status on the collection. So the IRS took everything and then left that little bit like it was unpaid, and then it qualified for a Chapter 7. Say like I was insoluble. But kind of little dirty tricks like that. But anyway, they can't even do a substitute for return, and that's what they did on a 1040. But all in all, it still made it happen. But you know, when you're unaware, and they've got throwing arrows at you from every angle. I remember when I come home driving truck, I had just a pile of letters from the IRS. I mean, one from Cincinnati, one from Ogden, one from Austin. I mean, and you know, if I wasn't home for a few months, they just kept hammering them, and I would address them, and then I'd get one from Cincinnati or one from somewhere else, and it just to keep you bogged down, keep you busy. But anyway, we'll get into the part where they did try to force me to acknowledge that all this property is part of the bankruptcy, and when I filled out a financial statement, he didn't want me to acknowledge that, and then he threatened me if I mentioned that again, there'd be a violation, and I'd go right back to prison. So I just referred it back to the first one. I said same as financial statement dated such and such, and went on. But anyway, You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening.
Okay. Well,
I'm working. I'm always busy.
If you get tired of me rattling, just tell me, shut up. I heard enough.
Oh, no. So let you roll.
Okay. Well, anyway, I don't know how it all comes out, Floyd, but I hope it'll be a benefit to the people to recognize the depth of depravity in our Department of Justice that we thought it was for justice, but they spelled it different. They spelled it just us.
Right. Yep. Like Justinian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, I went out there to, Jordan to Freeman up there, Schweitzer and them. And I went for a weekend class and we learned how to do those commercial liens. So I had like $1.2 billion worth of lien. When I put that into my financial statement, didn't like it. Here I had all these assets and no liability. What's up with this? And so he threatened me again to, I couldn't do that. I had to take that off and all this stuff. And I don't know. Then he told me that if it wasn't him that was requiring me to fill out a financial statement, it was his boss. So he said I could bring anybody along with me and we'll try to resolve this. And I went there and his boss was there and he was there. And I had this IRS form too that he forced me to fill out a 1040 form. So what I did is a zero return, and I accompanied it with a 3-page letter that explained that all I received for my labor was compensation and it was not income. And when my labor was performed, what I got in exchange was not a profit or gain because I could never get my labor back. So it was only an offset. It was only an exchange. And I come in there to this meeting and I brought the guy that I was driving truck with the first time. And I said, come on, Paul, let's go in. As he waved me in, he said, no. He said, Darrell, you're the only one that can come in and you cannot come in. And I said, well, you lied to me. You told me I could bring anyone with me. And I said, this is the man I'm working for. And I said, I have a right to, that he has a right to know what's going on so he can prepare for, what he's got planned for me to do. And well, he wouldn't let me in, but here was this, his boss and myself. And he walks around the desk and he goes, Darrell, I think you knew more than I thought you did. That was regarding that 1040. And then he goes with that financial statement, that he said it was his boss that was requiring it. His boss comes over there and he said, Darrell, he said, I don't see any reason why you have to fill out this financial statement. And I said, okay. Well, that kind of resolved things. They kind of cooled down a little bit and a little more sensible. And then about a month or so later, he demands that I fill one out again. And I said, well, you told me it was your boss, and your boss said I didn't need to fill one out. And now you're telling me. He said, well, I guess I disagreed with my boss, didn't I? I thought, you little snake.
Right.
But anyway, well, Floyd, if you got cauliflower, just holler.
Cauliflower.
If you want me to keep waddling, just tell me.
Oh, well, I got to finish that call that I was on.
Okay. Well, I'll let you go. Thanks for your time.
Okay.
I'll get this. I'll try to get part 3 done, and then I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah. Just hit me up
when I'm ready, and then we'll go from there. So
prison fire. Hang on. We got a prison fire in Huntsville.
Wow. Hey, another thing on this call, it was a little over an hour, and then I was going to cut it off, and I kind of brought to a conclusion, and you didn't pick up, so you could probably take out those empty spots if you want. They might be a minute or more longer. Okay. And then, well, you didn't come back, so I kept on. I started my motor, and I let the lips rattle again. So
okay.
I did that about 2-3 times, so you can see how it finished up. And if you can cut them out of there, it'd probably be beneficial.
All right. Okay. So, awesome.
Okay. Well, we'll leave it at that.
All right. If I don't talk to you again, have a great weekend.
Yeah, you do the same, and have a safe trip over to Peru if I don't talk to you before then.
Okay, yeah, I will. Well, I'm sure we'll talk before then. All right, thank you.
Okay, you bet. You'll be in my prayers. So talk to you later.
Appreciate
Bye.
it. All right, there you have it. The Darrell Link story, farmer's nightmare that just continues to get worse and worse and worse. And you can see that, like the depth of the depravity. I mean, preaching to the choir. If you have never experienced it, and once you do, you cannot unexperience it. It's like hearing, a unique bell being rung. Boom! Once you hear it, you can't unhear it. And once you experience it, you cannot unexperience it. And it rattles you to your soul. And to see all these people, just falling in line with the narrative, and they don't know any better. And, they don't know any better. And it sucks. So be sure to leave a comment below. Like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell. The Fearless Floyd Show at yahoo.com. If you want to email me, thefearlessfloydshow.com. It's my website. I showed you in the previous video. Got all kinds of stuff in there. Go check it out. But try to have some more guests on, see what I can line up for Puerto Rico. I'll be ahead of everybody. Yeah. I'll be on Atlantic time. So I think I've covered everything. I don't see y'all. Y'all have a great weekend. I am going to work today. I don't work this weekend, but I have a ton of stuff to do as I prepare to leave for Puerto Rico. I'm gonna have a blast. I'm gonna take y'all with me. Taking my little GoPro. See what I can do about getting something maybe mounted on a surfboard when I go surfing. Maybe some water sports and stuff. So I'm gonna go have a blast. Y'all wanna come with me? Come on. I'm gonna take y'all with me. We're gonna have some fun. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys. If I don't see you before tomorrow, y'all have a safe and happy weekend. Stay out of trouble. Don't come to Texas on vacation and leave on probation. You know how they are here.